What is the biggest plot twist you have seen in real life? In primary school we had a World War I memorial lesson and we were asked if anyone had any relatives who fought at the time. My friend brought in a picture of his great-great-grandfather with his wife. A girl also brought in a picture of her great-great-grandfather with his wife. The teacher said they looked similar. She put them side by side and looked shocked. We gathered around and it was the same man who had kept his two wives a secret. Both had been married privately. They were cousins and didn't he know? Met a dude at my local 24-hour fitness who was wearing a Shark Punch shirt. Since most people have no ducking clue about that band, I immediately decided I needed to talk to bro out with this dude about his particular taste in music metal. We get to talking, find out he's a drummer, lives locally and wants to start jam some evil shit. Awesome, exchange numbers and all that good stuff. Of course, however, actually meeting up with reliable musicians is much harder than it sounds. Despite the enthusiasm, around the same time I was working security at a local bar, and met this random cute girl who was not from the area but was totally into me and wanted to hang out. Exchanged numbers and planned to meet up. When we finally did, we hit it off pretty well, but she had mentioned that she's still kinda dating around but really liked me and hoped that I was okay with it. Totally was okay with it because I was also doing the same thing. We hung out maybe another time but then shortly after was hit with a sorry but I am kinda dating this other guy for a serious line, and I said I understood and moved on. When Jim Guy and I finally managed to get together to jam, a friend of his was there to play bass with us. We get introduced, started talking about random shit. When Jim Guy happened to mention to the buddy about the girl he was dating, he and I both started sharing our similarities and preference of people we date and I asked to see what she looked like. He is like, sorry dude, she does not have any social media or anything like that. But I have a video of her at some restaurant we went to a few weeks back. Shows me the video. Mia, she's cute. Yeah, I met her smoking outside of some bar in LA. Me dude, she totally reminds me of this girl I was dating not too long ago. What's her name? Him Kim. Me wait, really? That is so weird. I was dating a girl named Kim too. What are the odds? Hold up, she has a Snapchat right? Kim, yeah. Why? May I start trying to find her on Snap? Dude, what's her name on there? The friend at this time is looking at the both of us like oh duck and starts laughing. Both of us at the same time. Kimber Sleaze. Friend is dying of laughter at this point, and we both come to the realization that we are the same dude she ended up leaving staying with. We still ended up jamming anyways. Maybe this is not that big, but here it goes. I am a medic and one morning we had a call for an older woman, 70s if I remember right. She was having cardiac issues, was in compensated shock from a very low heart rate. From the time we got to her home to the time we were in the ambulance she had gotten much worse. We paced her heart, and she was doing good the rest of our hour ride to the hospital. About 16 hours later we get called for a rollover car accident. Get there and we have one male in the vehicle. Unresponsive. Vehicle is upside down off the road. We get him out. He is in very bad shape, was not breathing, so we intubated him and off to the hospital we went. Almost to the hospital, which is 30 miles away. And he goes into traumatic cardiac arrest, dead when we get there. While we were on the way to the hospital we found his wallet. Since we did not know who he was, saw his badge, retired police officer, and I remember from the morning, our patient's husband was a retired officer. He was on his way to see his wife. Unfortunately he stopped by the bar first. While it was not my job, I went with the nurse to talk to the wife and let her know what happened. She thanked me for being there for her family so much that day. I have a CO worker Joe, great guy who has an equally great wife, Nina. Over the years, and even prior to meeting Joe, multiple doctors told Nina she would be unable to get pregnant on her own due to problems with her ovaries and fallopian tubes. She and Joe decided that a child-free life was okay with them, so she and Joe married and lived happily for 12 years. When they started out, they did not have much, but as time passed, They progressed in their careers and made a nice life for themselves. Finally, they got to a point that they were comfortable enough to buy a sports car for themselves, something Joe always wanted to do. It was the first new, off-the-lot car they ever owned. Now Joe and Nina were in their early 40s at this time and figured they did just coast on into retirement. Well, about 6 months after they bought the car, winter came. Nina got a case of the flu she just could not seem to shake. She just felt run down and nauseous, just not herself. After about 3 weeks of this, she went to the doctor. The doctor asked if there was any possibility she could be pregnant. She laughed at him and said, "I have been married for 12 years now and have not had so much as a scare of being pregnant. Multiple doctors said it is just not going to happen for me. No way." But her doctor said, "Humor me and let me rule it out. Just do a urine test." Well, wanting to figure out what was actually wrong with her ASAP, Nina peed on the stick and, you guessed it, pregnant. So, in their 40s and with 12 years of living just the two of them, they were expecting. After the initial shock wore off, they were actually pretty excited even though they had to sell the sports car, since a two-seater was not really going to work for them. A few months later, their son John came into the world the usual way, happy, healthy baby. So, they became a family of 3 and they still are today. John just finished his first year of high school, great kid and super smart too. You just never know what life is gonna throw at you. My sister's boyfriend decided that he wanted to do more with his architecture skills, so he gave his 2 weeks notice and moved to Haiti to help rebuild after the earthquake. They stayed together. He had bad phone service, so they mostly kept in touch through emails. He would send her long emails with photos and stories of what they were doing. This went on for a couple of months. One offhanded tip from a CO worker and a week of sleuthing later, and it turns out he never went to Haiti. He moved to Seattle to be with his fiancée and partner of 9 years. During the last year of my grandfather's life, he had dementia and was having trouble keeping track of reality. Before he was placed into hospice, he kept complaining about a man that was in his house. He would say that he would come around at night and that he was taking his things and using his stuff. Grandma of course kept reassuring him that she was the only one there. His doctor increased his medications because he was losing touch with reality so badly. Fast forward to my grandfather's funeral, and a man showed up that was not known by more than a few people in the family. Turns out he was an old friend of my grandmother's who showed up to give his support. In a small town like that, it was not exactly an unusual thing to have random people show up to the funeral home who knew the person at some point. Well, about a year later, my grandmother let slip that she has seen someone, the guy from funeral. At this point, nothing too odd. They got to talking at church and we thought it was sweet. Then a bit later, sweet innocent grandma mentions that it is their 3rd anniversary. Grandpa died 2 years prior. This man was the person that Grandpa saw in his house every night. He was the reason that everyone thought Grandpa was going crazy. He was the reason that my grandfather was medicated to the point of being a vegetable for the last horrible year of his life. Too long didn't he read. Grandpa thought he saw someone in his house before he died. Turns out it was Grandma's boyfriend. 1991. I am 19. Just signed the lease for my first solo apartment. Just got the first paycheck from my new job. I deposit the paycheck at the moment another first. I did always gone into the bank to do it. 2 weeks later, I get my bank statement in the mail, and see with horror I have only $187 in my account. Way wrong. I should have at least 200. I did been very careful with my spending. I am freaked. I came within 2 of bouncing my first rent check. I am literally reaching for the phone to call the bank when the phone rings. It is the police, asking if my at the moment card was stolen. I check my wallet and the card is missing. My job at a theater pub came with cash tips, so I did not use the card often, and tell them I was going to call them anyway because I was missing 200 from my account. Well, we have got your card, and your 200, so come down to the police station. They tell me. I cannot figure out how they have my card and the cash. Does not make sense. I drive down there. Detective says someone, let us call him Bob, pulled into use and at the moment and saw a man acting suspiciously while he was using it, moving back and forth as if trying to dodge the camera. Bob says the man then left the at the moment, got into a car, and drove away at high speeds as if fleeing. Bob then went to the at the moment and put his card in, which popped out. Bob then withdrew 200, and then another at the moment card popped out, my card. Bob's card had popped out because the crook had left my card in the at the moment before speeding away. Bob realized he had withdrawn the money from my account and not his, so he brought my card and the cash to the police and reported the attempted theft. The detective gives me the description of the crook. According to Bob, it was a man 5'7", brown hair, round gold-rimmed glasses. I say out loud so. About my height, my color hair, and glasses like mine. Before realizing Bob was describing me, I did never deposited a check in at the moment before, so I was moving back and forth, following the instructions on the screen, filling out the envelope with my account number, punching the amount in, etc. I then forgot to take my card out and just left because I am a ducking idiot. I drove away at high speeds because I was 19 and that is how I drove everywhere. Worried the detective might be annoyed, I did not tell him I was the crook. I just thanked him and left with the money I stole from myself. Somewhere in a box in my closet I still have the police report where I am both the victim and the perp. Told this before in another thread, but it is still hilarious to me. Guy I knew in high school English class was talking one winter day about how he was late to school because someone hit his mailbox. His folks made him fix it up before he went to school. He missed his ride, had to walk instead, but the school staff was cool about it, did not punish him. A few minutes later, another girl comes into class. She is talking about how her morning sucked. She lost control going down a hill, hit someone's mailbox. She freaked out, drove off before anyone witnessed it, described a few details of the house. Mailbox guy puts two together, blurts out, "You hit my mailbox." He was not super mad about it. She turned beet red. It was hilarious at the time the way they both reacted. We are living in Florida at the time and my dad goes to the eye doctor because he is seeing double. In all other respects he is healthy. He explains his symptoms to the doctor. This was the early 2000s. The doctor picks up a medical book on eye problems. He finds the kind symptoms my dad is describing. The doctor shows him the book. In the book there is a whole medical page explaining what he is experiencing and a picture of a kid from the 1960s. My dad looks at the picture and says, "Doc, that's me." The doctor says, "Yes, those are the symptoms you are showing." My dad says, "No, really, that's me in the picture." It turns out my dad had this eye problem when he was a kid and it was so rare that they took his picture in 1960s. Ohio SND slapped him in a book of rare eye problems. He doesn't remember much about taking the picture, but he did manage to get a copy of it to take home. I dated a girl who lived in a city I had recently moved away from. On my birthday I drove out so that we could be together, go out to dinner. The entire time we were at dinner she was distant and constantly checking her phone, sending texts, etc. There was virtually no conversation and her constant texting was uncharacteristic and started to give me the vibe that she was either cheating on me or just not that into the relationship anymore. When we finish eating she asks if it's okay if we stop by a mutual friend's house to pick up some weed. I reluctantly agreed, thinking it was a pretty selfish request considering it was my birthday and I do not smoke weed. As we are walking up the steps to our friend's apartment I am running through different ways for me to break off the relationship up until the door opens and I realize she had planned a big surprise party with a ton of my old friends, many of which she did not even know. All of the texts and lack of attention that I had been attributing to a lack of interest in me turned out to be the exact opposite. She is a beautiful person. Was on a flight from Paris to Boston. I had the aisle seat across from a little hall of bathrooms in the middle of the plane. At one point a man from a few rows up goes into a bathroom and after a couple of minutes comes out and is just standing in the aisle, so it gets my attention. He keeps going in and coming back out, looking up towards where he is sitting. I see a woman who is sitting next to his empty seat shake her head at him, but he doesn't give up. Finally, after like 5 times of coming in and out, he finally gets the woman to come back there. The lights are out and most of the plane is sleeping, and once she comes back to him they start making out in the bathroom hallway before he goes into one and pulls her in with him. They are in there for quite a while and then he comes out and goes back to his seat, and a few minutes later she comes out and does the same. They are really flirty in their seats and about an hour later repeat it. The man goes in and then she joins him. They end up doing this 3 times throughout the flight. My husband, who is sitting next to me, has caught on to what they are doing as well, and we made a joke about how they must be newlyweds on their honeymoon. We get off the plane and the woman is standing at the gate waiting and the man is nowhere in sight. As the people from the back of the plane get off, a completely different man goes up to her and gives her a kiss on the lips and asks her if she was able to get any sleep on the flight and calls her dear. Then they walk off towards the luggage area with their arms around each other. So apparently what we thought was an adventurous newlywed couple was actually a woman hooking up with her seatmate while her husband was sitting in the back of the plane. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.